I accidentally activated her mating mark. Now I'm stuck with her. The research station he worked on floated silently above a dead moon in a sector where no human had lived before. The galaxy considered humans weak, fragile creatures, but they were curious, persistent, and Evan liked to think clever. The station was quiet, too quiet. Pipes hissed, lights flickered, and the only sound was the faint hum of machinery. Humans had not been trusted to command ships or fight in serious battles, so most of the human crew were technicians, engineers, and thinkers. Evan fit in perfectly. He loved the hum of circuits more than the chaos of combat. That morning, he had been walking through the research hall, checking the energy cores. Alien artifacts lined the walls, glowing softly with unknown power. Each one had a warning tag, written in several languages. One in particular caught his eye, a small carved device in dark blue metal shaped like a claw curling around a sphere. "Do not touch," the tag read in bold letters. "Velari property, life bond protocol active." Evan frowned. He had read the reports. The Velari were a warrior species, tall and fierce, covered in metallic scales and sharp, precise eyes. Their life bond mark was famous in galactic history. It was a genetic and energy-based link that could tie one living being to another for survival, sometimes forever. Humans were not supposed to survive it. The research note said the bond was dangerous, unpredictable, and potentially fatal to any species outside the Velari. But curiosity was part of being human. And that morning, curiosity fought with caution. The station's alarms blared suddenly, shaking Evan from his thoughts. A surge had traveled through the energy grid and several systems were failing. Lights flickered and the hum of machinery became a low, threatening growl. "Evan, the core." "Hurry," shouted Lieutenant Mara, another human crew member. He ran toward the main energy console. Panels were sparking. Power readings jumped erratically. Something or someone had tripped the main circuits. If they didn't act fast, the station could shut down entirely and the oxygen supply would fail. Evan glanced around. The Velari artifact sat on its pedestal, still glowing. It was tempting to ignore it, but the energy surge was close to the artifact. The note said it could absorb energy. Maybe, just maybe, it could save the station. He hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then, without thinking too much, he reached out and touched it. Instantly, the device hummed louder, vibrating under his hand. Blue light spread from it, flowing into his fingers, up his arm, and into his chest. It was not painful at first, just strange, like every nerve in his body was waking up at once. Then he felt it. A pulse, a connection, as if something unseen had latched onto him. He stumbled back, but the light followed him, wrapping around his chest. A symbol, glowing bright blue, burned briefly into his vision, a mark shaped like twin spirals. "Oh no," he whispered. The alarm systems quieted for a second, and then the station shuddered. From the corner of the lab, a shadow moved. Evan turned, and there she was, Sithra. Commander Sithra, one of the most feared Velari warriors alive. She moved like a predator, tall, scaled arms crossed, and eyes narrowing. "You touched my mark," she said in a voice that could cut steel. Evan swallowed hard. He tried to step back, but his feet felt heavy. The light on his chest pulsed again, and he realized he couldn't move freely. What is happening?" he asked, voice trembling. Sithra's eyes softened, only a fraction, but it was enough to make Evan nervous. "You have activated the life bond protocol. You are now linked to me, permanently until one of us dies." Evan froze. He had heard of this in galactic history reports. The bond was not romantic. It was a survival link, designed for a species to share energy, life force, and even abilities in moments of extreme danger. Humans were not supposed to survive it. Most human physiology could not handle the energy transfer. Most humans died within hours. I didn't mean to," Evan began, but Sithra's sharp gaze stopped him. "No excuses," she said. "We have a problem, and if we survive this, it will be because of me and you together." The station shook again. Evan's heart raced. His fingers twitched uncontrollably, responding to Sithra's own nervous energy. Every step she took caused him to stumble slightly. Every breath she drew made him feel dizzy. "What does linked mean?" he asked. "It means if I get hurt, you will feel it," Sithra explained, her voice measured. "If I am poison, you taste it. If I die, you die. The bond is symmetrical. Survival depends on both of us." Evan swallowed hard. His mind raced. He was already feeling pulses of pain when she adjusted her stance. It was not unbearable, but it was constant. Why me?" he asked, trying to calm himself. "You touched my mark," Sithra said. "It chooses no one but those who are alive. Most of your kind cannot survive it, but you are still alive. That is unusual." Evan had no idea how to respond. He had not been trained for alien warrior bonds. He had barely survived engineering school on Earth. And now, the galaxy's most dangerous soldier was tethered to him by a bond that could kill him any moment. "We need to move," Sithra said suddenly. She strode to the console and began checking the energy systems. Evan followed as best as he could, the link pulling on him with every step. Can we undo this?" he asked. "No," she said simply. "Not until the bond completes itself naturally, if it ever does. You are stuck with me, and I am stuck with you." The alarms continued. Lights flickered and sparks flew from consoles. Evan worked with her, following her instructions and manually overriding systems that were designed for Velari physiology. It was exhausting. The bond made his every movement reflect her energy, her tension, and her stress. But somehow he adapted. He focused, applied human logic, and step by step helped stabilize the station's failing circuits. "Not bad for a human," Sithra muttered, not looking at him. Evan felt a strange pride. For the first time in his life, humans might be doing something aliens considered impossible. Hours passed. The station slowly stabilized. The energy cores hummed evenly and lights returned to their normal glow. But Evan could not ignore the mark on his chest. It throbbed softly under his skin, reminding him that survival was no longer optional. Sithra finally looked at him directly. "You are alive," she said, her tone almost approving, "which means something strange is happening. The bond is not killing you. Most humans die instantly. You persist." Evan swallowed. "So I'm not supposed to survive this?" "No," Sithra said, "which means you are stronger than we expected. You will have to prove it again and again. Survival depends on it." Evan nodded slowly. He didn't know if he was ready for what that meant, but one thing was clear. From this moment on, nothing would be the same. The galaxy had marked him. Sithra was bound to him. And the humans, once considered weak and fragile, had just survived the impossible. As he looked around the quiet station, Evan realized that this mistake, this accident, had thrown him into a world far bigger than he could have imagined. And for the first time, he felt the strange mix of fear and excitement that came with survival. He was human. He was weak by alien standards, but he was alive. And somehow, that made all the difference. The bond between Evan Hale and Commander Sithra pulsed like a living thing. Every movement she made, every breath she took, seemed to flow into him. The first shock of activation had passed, but its effects were far from over. Pain, fatigue, and an odd energy flowed through his body constantly. He could not sit, rest, or even walk normally without feeling her presence. The link was not friendly, it was demanding. Evan tried to focus. Humans were known for their adaptability. They were weak physically, but clever, stubborn, and resilient. He had survived the first hours of the bond. That was something. But Sithra's presence was overwhelming. Her emotions crashed into him like waves, her tension like iron plates pressing on his chest. "You need to learn control," she said sharply, pacing in front of the energy console. Her scaled arms reflected the station lights, her eyes sharp and unblinking. "If you panic, the bond punishes you. If you fail to respond, it will drain your life." You are alive now because you have a mind, human, not because the bond spares you. Evan swallowed hard. He had read about warriors like her. Velari were designed to endure the impossible. They thrived in pain, fear, and chaos. Humans, on the other hand, well, humans survived by thinking, by finding patterns, by refusing to give up. I'll try, he said. His voice trembled, but he forced it steady. I think I can handle it. Think, she scoffed. Your survival depends on doing, not thinking. The next test came sooner than he expected. The station received a signal, a distress call from a nearby mining colony. Pirates had attacked, and the colony was in danger. The outpost was small, vulnerable, and the Velari military code required them to respond. Sithra's eyes sharpened. We go, you will come with me. The bond does not allow separation. If we die together. Evan's stomach tightened. This was more than maintenance or circuits. He would have to survive combat with her, and every mistake could kill him instantly. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of determination lit in his chest. They boarded a small shuttle, the hum of its engines vibrating through their linked bodies. Evan felt her heartbeat like his own. Every turn, every movement she made, echoed in him. It was exhausting, but he forced himself to adapt. Humans survived by observation and learning. If he could read her motions, anticipate her reactions, maybe he could stay alive. When they arrived at the mining colony, chaos unfolded. Explosions rocked the ground, fires burned, and alien pirates ran through the settlement, taking what they wanted. Sithra moved like a shadow, precise and deadly. Evan followed, his own body responding to the bond. Pain shot through him when she dodged a fallen beam, but he kept moving. The bond made him feel weak at first, but he discovered something remarkable. The human mind could adapt to the stress differently. While the bond overwhelmed him physically, his mind stayed alert. He analyzed, planned, and acted. One pirate aimed a plasma rifle at Sithra. Evan, feeling her tension and reflex, grabbed a nearby control panel and threw it at the pirate. The human's action was slow, clumsy, and yet perfectly timed. The pirate stumbled, giving Sithra the chance to neutralize him. Not bad, she muttered, her eyes flicking to him briefly. Evan almost missed the faint acknowledgement. Throughout the fight, the bond pulsed unpredictably. Every time she was hurt, he flinched. Every time she moved aggressively, he felt the strain in his chest. The difference was that instead of collapsing, he learned to control it. He focused on patterns, her breathing, her steps, the rhythm of the combat. By predicting her movements, he reduced the pain and energy drain. Hours passed, but the humans and Velari fought side by side, coordinated by the unexpected synergy between them. Evan was exhausted, but he had survived. Not just survived, he had contributed. After the battle, the colony's survivors gathered around them, confused and awed. How did a human survive the bond? One miner whispered. Velari guards shook their heads in disbelief. Humans were not supposed to endure this. Sithra's gaze found Evan's. You are not just surviving, you are changing it, she said. The faintest trace of admiration crept into her voice. Most humans die instantly. You adapt. Evan tried to hide his fatigue, but the bond made it impossible. Every heartbeat, every breath reminded him he was linked to a being far stronger than himself. Yet something inside him stirred, human pride, stubbornness, and curiosity. He was still alive, still moving, still thinking. That night aboard the shuttle returning to the station, Evan tried to rest. Sleep was impossible. The bond kept him alert. Sithra sat nearby, her arms crossed, watching him with those piercing eyes. You will not die easily, she said after hours of silence. And you may survive longer than expected. Humans are strange creatures, weak, yet unbreakable in ways we cannot understand. Evan blinked. He had never heard a Velari speak so openly about humans. Usually they dismiss them as fragile and insignificant. But now he felt something powerful, respect. The next day the station received new orders. The bond was attracting attention from higher authorities, the Galactic Tribunal. The bond itself was considered a sacred protocol, and no human had ever survived it. A tribunal ship approached, demanding that Evan and Sithra be separated immediately. Failure to comply would be considered a crime against Velari law. Sithra prepared for a confrontation. They do not understand. If they force separation, you die. Evan's chest tightened. The human instinct to survive flared stronger than fear. Then we won't let them, he said. The tribunal ship's arrival caused panic among the station crew. The Velari tried to argue, but the humans looked to Evan for a plan. For the first time, he felt the weight of leadership. He was weak in terms of strength, but strong in adaptability. Humans survived not by being the strongest. They survived by thinking faster, acting smarter, and refusing to give up. Using the bond, Evan communicated with Sithra silently, learning to predict her actions and coordinate perfectly. Together, they managed to create a defensive barrier using the station's energy grid, redirecting power and confusing the tribunal's sensors. The Velari were astonished. They are not just surviving, an alien officer whispered. They are controlling it. The tribunal demanded compliance, but Evan, relying on human intuition, used the bond's feedback to anticipate the next move. He guided Sithra, timing her attacks and maneuvers perfectly. For the first time, humans were proving their value not through brute strength, but through resilience, intelligence, and adaptation. Hours passed in tense negotiation, standoff, and strategy. Finally, the tribunal relented. Evan and Sithra had survived, had held their ground, and the bond remained intact. Sithra looked at Evan, the bond pulsing between them. You are remarkable. Most humans would have died. You did not. You adapted. You endured. Evan smiled faintly, exhausted but alive. Humans survive. That's what we do. The bond was no longer just a threat. It was a connection that could be used. Sithra began to teach him control techniques, explaining Velari movement, energy control, and strategy. Evan applied human logic to her lessons, sometimes improving them, sometimes finding new methods to stabilize the bond. The bond transformed from a curse into a tool. Together, they trained. They fought simulated battles. They coordinated energy flows. The station became their proving ground. Every success reinforced the fact humans were not weak. Humans survived where others failed. By the end of Part 2, Evan had changed the perception of humans in the galaxy. No longer fragile, they were capable of adapting to the impossible. And while the bond continued to strain him physically, it had begun to teach him something equally important. Survival is not about strength. It is about persistence, learning, and refusing to give in. The station was quiet once more, but the galaxy had taken notice. The bond that should have broken him had instead made him stronger, smarter, and more determined. The story of the human who survived the Velari life bond would spread, a testament to the power of human adaptability and courage. And for Evan Hale, the lesson was clear. Being human was not a weakness. It was a strength the universe had not yet understood. The Galactic Tribunal ship hovered above the station, massive and imposing, like a shadow that refused to leave. Evan Hale stood next to Sithra on the observation deck, the bond between them thrumming in their bodies like a living heartbeat. Every pulse reminded him that their lives were tied together. If she died, he would die. If he failed, she would perish. There was no escaping it. The tribunal's envoy, a tall alien with a crystal-like exoskeleton, spoke through the comms. Commander Sithra, human Evan Hale, you are violating sacred Velari protocol. The life bond must be terminated immediately. The human cannot survive. Comply or face destruction. Sithra's eyes narrowed, her jaw tightening. We will not comply. You have no right to destroy him. Evan felt the bond pulse strongly. It was not just her fear, it was her anger, her will, her power. It pressed on him like a weight, but instead of crushing him, it fueled him. Humans survived against odds that were impossible, that had always been their way. "Wait," Evan said, stepping forward. His voice was steady. "I can survive it. Let me prove it." The tribunal officer's eyes widened. "Impossible. No human has ever survived the life bond." "You will die. This is not a negotiation." Evan's chest tightened. He could feel the bond responding, stretching him, testing him. But humans thrived on challenge. They adapted. They endured. He swallowed hard and spoke again. "Then I will do what no one believes possible." Sithra blinked, disbelief flashing in her eyes. "Do you understand the risk?" "I understand," Evan said firmly. "I am human. We survive." The tribunal demanded that Sithra sever the bond. She shook her head. "No, if the human dies, I die. We cannot allow it." The tribunal ordered the use of a separation device, a machine designed to break the bond forcibly. Energy arcs danced in the chamber, threatening to kill Evan instantly. His vision blurred. The bond screamed in pain. But then something changed. He focused, grounding himself in human memory. Earth, his family, the small victories of life he had survived. He held onto them like a lifeline. The energy surged. Pain tore through his body. His chest felt like it was on fire, but Evan did not collapse. He breathed slowly, thinking clearly, observing the energy patterns. He adapted. The human mind compensated for physical weakness. His determination overpowered the machine's attempts to destroy him. Sithra watched, astonished. "Impossible," she whispered. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time was meaningless under the strain of the bond. Every nerve, every muscle, every heartbeat was tested. The tribunal watched in silence, their arrogance replaced with fear. A human should have died long ago. Yet here he was, alive, resisting forces designed to obliterate him. Evan felt a surge of power, not strength but control. The bond was no longer just a tether, it was a bridge. He could sense Sithra's movements, her breathing, her rhythm. Together they moved in perfect synchronization. The bond responded to their unity, stabilizing instead of consuming. The tribunal's envoy finally spoke, voice trembling. "This cannot be. The bond is adapting to the human's mind. It is evolving." "Yes," Sithra said, awe creeping into her tone. "He is not only surviving, he is strengthening it." Evan focused even more, letting the bond flow through him without panic. He felt energy cycling between them, pulses of life, synchronization of thought and movement. He realized the truth. The bond could evolve beyond its original design. Humans were unpredictable. They could survive what others could not. The tribunal debated, but the evidence was undeniable. The human was alive. The bond had not failed. And more than that, it had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen. Sithra placed her hand on the console, her voice calm but commanding. "This bond is no longer only a weapon or protocol. It is a partnership. The human has proven worthy. You cannot destroy him." Evan felt the bond pulse like a heartbeat in unison with hers. Every fear, every pain, every doubt dissolved. For the first time, he understood the full power of their connection. It was not about strength. It was about unity, adaptation, and survival. The tribunal finally relented. Their orders were clear. The human would live, the bond would remain intact, and Sithra's actions were justified. In that moment, the galaxy recognized a new truth. Humans were not fragile. They were capable of surviving forces no one had predicted. Weeks passed after the tribunal left. Evan and Sithra trained together, learning to use the bond fully. Combat simulations, energy control exercises, and tactical drills became daily routines. Each day the bond strengthened, not through dominance but through cooperation. One day, during a particularly intense training session, an emergency alarm rang. A nearby asteroid field was destabilizing, threatening to destroy a human transport ship. The station's defenses were too weak to stop it alone. "Evan," Sithra said, urgency in her voice, "we move together. The bond can help us redirect energy faster than any human or Velari could alone. He nodded. The bond pulsed and he felt a rush of clarity. Together they entered the shuttle, coordinating flawlessly. Energy flowed between them, amplifying both their abilities. The asteroid field was chaotic, massive rocks spinning unpredictably. But with the bond, they predicted every movement, controlled the ship's energy shields, and diverted the largest rocks away from the transport. The human crew cheered. The Velari Marines stared in awe. Evan had not just survived the bond, he had mastered it. Humanity, weak by alien standards, had now saved dozens of lives with the power of adaptation and endurance. After the mission, Sithra placed a scaled hand on his shoulder. You have proven it, Evan. Humans are more than survival machines. They are clever, persistent, and remarkable. Evan smiled, exhausted but proud. We survive, that's what we do. The bond had changed both of them. It was no longer a punishment or a threat. It was a tool, a connection, a bridge between species. They understood each other in ways no one else could, and the galaxy had to take notice. Galactic news spread the story. A human survived the Velari life bond and turned it into a new form of partnership. Humans were no longer fragile newcomers. They were capable of reshaping the rules of alien society simply by surviving and adapting. Months later, Evan and Sithra stood on the observation deck again, watching the stars. The bond pulsed softly, a constant reminder of their connection. Are you still amazed? Evan asked. Sithra smiled faintly, a rare expression for a Velari. Every day, you have changed what we thought was possible. Humans are incredible. Evan felt a swell of pride. He had survived what should have killed him. He had endured, adapted, and learned. And in doing so, humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. The bond would remain, linking them in ways the universe had never predicted. But it was no longer a curse. It was proof. Proof that humans, fragile or not, could face impossible odds and win. And so, at the edge of known space, two unlikely allies stood together, bonded not just by energy but by respect, survival, and the unbreakable will of humanity. Humans had survived. And the galaxy would never forget it.